Now, Sir Keir Starmer has blamed the ongoing migrant crisis on Brexit and Reform UK leaders Nigel Farage.
Yes, in an interview with GB News' political editor Christopher Hope yesterday, the Prime Minister branded the small boats crossing the Channel as Farage boats. Let's take a listen.
The returns agreement with France is important because we need to establish that if you come by boat, you will be returned to France. I accept the numbers are low. We had to prove the concept and prove that it could work. We've now done that, but now we need to ramp that up. I would gently point out to Nigel Farage and others that before we left the EU, we had a returns agreement with every country in the EU. And he told the country, make no difference if we left. Well, he was wrong about that. These are Farage boats in many senses that are coming across the Channel.
Well, it begs the question, is Nigel Farage being used as a scapegoat for the small boat crisis?
Well, let's debate this now with Conservative councillor Matthew Goodwin-Freeman and founder of the Sanctuary Foundation, Dr Krish Kandiah. Morning, gentlemen. Matthew, let's start with you. Do you think Nigel Farage is being used as a scapegoat over small boats?
I absolutely do. You cannot mix up timelines and dates with the reality of what's going on. Yes, the small boats started coming over after Brexit, but that's because before Brexit, people were coming over in the back of lorries. And we as the government did a lot to clamp down on that, make a deterrent that if you come over in the back of a lorry, you're illegal. And people stopped doing that and started looking at other ways. It's completely wrong to say that Nigel Farage is to blame for this. He's one of the first people to point out the small boats crisis. I remember that video of him on a boat out in the Channel pointing out what was going on. So it's very convenient for Labour to start pointing the finger at Reform. They've realised that the battle is with Reform for the keys of government, and it's just anything they can say to grab headlines at the moment. I think it's just not right. They need to deal with the issue, stop pointing the finger.
Krish, what do you think?
Well, Nigel Farage and the Brexit campaign made lots of promises around Brexit. You might remember that picture of Nigel standing in front of thousands of migrants that were coming this way. And he promised that leaving the European Union would end that flow of people. Well, actually, the lack of returns arrangements makes it harder to send people who have failed their asylum claim back to the country they've come from.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
So I do think Nigel does need to take some responsibility, although I am nervous about political sloganeering when it comes to people who are fleeing war and terror. So I'm not sure about the comment Farage's boats.
What do you make of that, Matthew? I mean, did we lose those returns deals with those European countries when obviously we Brexited, if you will?
Well, the frustration is the fact that what Nigel Farage would argue is Brexit hasn't been used to the full of its abilities. I'm happy to hold my hands up and say that the Conservative government didn't use Brexit to the full of its couldn't organise, returns at all. We did have a deterrent, and before anyone starts saying that, we didn't, we had the Rwanda plan that had a drop of 33% already in numbers before a flight even took off. So there was a deterrent that Labour could have kept going until they worked out their own one and then scrap it. But instead, they scrapped it on day one of coming into government. And since then, we've seen 55,000 people come over, 35,000 this year alone. It's on track to be the worst year in history. But instead, we've seen 3 flights go off to France with, I think it's 3 migrants and 4 journalists or something. So look, the point is that Brexit has given this country the ability to do deals however it wants, to go out and do what it wants in the world. We need to actually implement that. And the Conservatives didn't, and we got kicked out of office. Labour aren't. And so I think what we're seeing now is people exploiting the ability to come here easily, exploiting the fact that Labour are soft touch on illegal immigration, and actually worried that Nigel Farage and Reform might form the next government and will stop the small boats crisis, so probably are coming over quicker.
Krish, does Matthew have a point here? Of course, the Labour government have been in power now for well over a year. How long are they going to continue to blame Nigel Farage for a referendum which happened almost 10 years ago, voted for by 52% of the population, when they're the ones who actually have to implement policies to stop the small boats?
So I think Brexit was more complicated than people thought. We didn't get all that money to spend back on the NHS, and we made it harder to send people back to...
We invested more than £350 million a week on the NHS, so that's
Matthew,
not
let
true.
Dr Krish speak. He let you speak.
They didn't have the opportunity to return people as we thought we might. So I think it has been complicated and it's had long-term consequences. We mentioned the Rwanda deal. That was incredibly expensive, and it punished people for trying to come to our country rather than punishing the traffickers or smugglers. So I think we were punishing the wrong people. It's like punishing punishing rape victims rather than rapists. So I do think we have a problem. Like 14 years of the Conservative government wasn't able to kind of put a handle on a fair and just immigration system. Labour is struggling now. We've just seen the news of Labour's new, I think, draconian measures that stop people who have the right to claim asylum, who are refugees, from being reunited with their family. I'm worried in the middle of all this, we're losing sight of the human stories in the middle of this. People that are fleeing war and terror, not being able to be seen quickly and fairly. And I think that's the big problem that we're losing. And I hate the politics around this. I wish we could take a more compassionate and reasonable approach that returns people who don't have the right to claim asylum, but does provide refuge for those who really need it.
Matthew, would you like to come back on some of Krish's points?
Yeah, so just to fact check, we spent more than £350 million a week on the NHS after Brexit. So that money has actually been delivered into the NHS like was promised on the side of the bus. The problem is no one realises that, and the Conservatives should have banged more about the fact that actually we have done that. So just to fact check that. But on the point about people fleeing war, absolutely. We all think people fleeing war need to be supported. But where are the women and children? It is young men who are coming over on the small boats, because the second that they get here, they try and claim asylum and then try bring their family over. Now, the problem is that plays perfectly into the smuggling gangs, plays perfectly into their business model. And if we had a way where we could set up maybe embassies, or we could set up centres where people could claim asylum there, I'd like to see the women and children first. And I think the general British public would want to see that too. You know, the Titanic, women and children only. It's in our DNA that you put the most vulnerable first. And we're not seeing the women and children coming over, despite the claims of several Labour ministers that there are the majority of them are women and children. It's not happening. So I agree with you on that human front, but we're not seeing it. Instead, we're seeing young men coming over, being propped up in hotels. More hotels now are opening than were under the Conservatives. We probably would have closed all the hotels now if we'd got back into government the rate we were going. And British public are fed up. We're fed up of this. At a time where taxes are going up, we're seeing benefits being cut, winter fuel being cut. We're probably going to see pensions taxed at the budget and more tax rises. We're just fed up of it, frankly. It's not our job to deal with everybody else's problems. Maybe France, maybe other countries should start taking these people in before they come to the UK.
OK, gentlemen, we're out of time with you. Thank you very much indeed. Matthew, just before we let you go, you are a Conservative councillor, speaking very warmly there about Nigel Farage. Do you think potentially you could be a future defector?
I get asked this every time. I've always come on shows and been happy to hold my hand up and say the Conservatives messed up. We have to get our act together, and then we'll see what happens. But, if that means that I'm warm to reform, then fine. I'm just caring about being honest and open of the mistakes that the Conservatives made.
It's not a no.
No, it wasn't a denial.
OK. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
you.
Thank you very much indeed. Let us know what you think on that one. gbnews.com/you'll say.